Thank you, Dr. Titial, but my time starts now. It's 12 minutes. Subluxated cataracts is the topic given to me, and these are my financial disclosures of no practical relevance to the subject matter of this presentation. And I'm going to deal with just some videos of common subluxated situation. This is a pediatric Marfan's, and unless it comes to the central visual axis and starts disturbing the visual area, you really need not do anything about it. This is one of the situations where I would use a high molecular weight viscoelastic because I want a nicely flat anterior capsule and a deep anterior chamber. HPMC is my go-to viscoelastic in most of the situations, but in situations like that, I would resort to a high molecular weight cohesive viscoelastic. And that's just centering for the rhexis. And here you have to slightly decenter it to make sure that you have to keep in mind the final position of the capsular bag once this lens has been well centered using an endocapsular ring. I believe that in situations like this, because of compromised zonular support, getting a rhexis is one of the most difficult aspects. You aim at slightly smaller rhexis and invariably you end up doing it with reasonable experience. You do not rotate this nucleus, but doing an adequate hydrodissection is necessary so that the nucleus is free of its adhesions. Then, fortunately, many of these nucleus are quite soft, but of course, sometimes you have to deal with a hard nucleus situation also. So here you use low parameters. Everything you keep it low. You hardly ever go to foot position 3 and try to do remove the lens material as in as traumatic way as possible. Again, as far as cortical removal is concerned, you have to be very careful not to drag on whatever zonules that are there, and especially when you're taking cortical matter away from areas where there is compromise on support, the drag has to be in the tangential direction. And as you can see, this is a relatively firmer, reasonably well-placed lens, and this is normally I do not polish the back of the anterior capsule, but because it's a pediatric cataract, a slightly smaller rhexis, subluxated lens, all predisposing to capsular phimosis, I go ahead and polish the back of the anterior capsule. And I do believe that this helps in minimizing the chance of capsular phimosis. Do see that I fill up the anterior chamber with viscoelastic, keeping the irrigation port in the place. So, and this is the endocapsular ring being introduced through the side port. Do notice that when the last segment is going in, I tend to use another Sinskey hook to support the endocapsular ring so that it does not go into the fornices. Initial days, I had a couple of situations where it tended to go to the fornix, and it becomes a fairly difficult and inelegant way of retrieving the endocapsular ring. This is the lens being put in place, and since it's going into the bag, I do not mind using a single piece aspheric lens. Of course, if it had to go into the sulcus, it has to be a 3-piece lens. Having said that, do remember that the 3-piece, the PMMA haptics give much better support to the compromised zonular situation, and you could consider that also. We would be seeing that in a subsequent case. This is just a combination of hooks and rings, and in a slightly elderly individual. He's about 45 years old. As you can see, the subluxated is quite obvious here, and there is almost total absence of zonules in these regions. And you need not, once you put a capsular hook, now you have iris hooks and capsular hooks. Capsular hooks are a slightly different configuration. And again, as you can see, the most difficult aspect is good rhexis. And the moment you feel that the rhexis is not giving way and it's not seems to be under control, immediately you start looking for a situation where the capsular support is somewhat compromised. And even in this situation, if necessary, I could have gone ahead and introduced an iris hook or a capsular hook to support. But in this case, it seems to be going on reasonably well. And for reasons of time, I'll just show here this capsular hook. This is essentially the area where the support is deficient. So what I do is to put in this case, I'm using an iris hook and make 2 just small incisions, and basically I just slip in this hooks over there. The moment it is there, the entire capsular bag seems to be held up and things appear to be so much better under control. Again, doing a reasonably good hydrodissection. And here, because the support is inadequate, the moment the hydrodissection is done, you can introduce the endocapsular ring. Here I am, of course, using a device to inject it. You can see the endocapsular ring going all the way around. And that's just, finally, you might have to release it using a Sinskey hook, and it is in place. Once these two devices are in place, then the whole surgery seems to be so much, appears to be under better control. And I just go ahead and, in these situations, do not hesitate to prolapse the nucleus into the anterior chamber. As I already mentioned, many of these cases have a fairly soft nucleus, and doing a phacoaspiration or using very minimal power in the anterior chamber, though it's deleterious to the endothelium, is a compromise you can have, because the moment you take the nucleus out of the bag, then there's less disturbance of the capsular bag. And of course, with the endocapsular ring in place, it's a little more difficult to tease out the cortex, because these endocapsular rings tend to keep the cortical material abutted to the fornix, but then you can do it in a gentle manner, pulling it tangentially and then stripping it off. And whenever you have a tendency for the lens to tilt because of a compromised zonular support, it might be a good idea to put in a lens with aspericity of 0.0. Whether it's a aspheric lens or if it's a spherical lens, the moment these lenses tilt, then there is a greater tendency for inappropriate spherical aberration to be introduced. Let's go on to a more severe situation, and you can see this Sionis ring in here we will be using a Sionis ring. As you can see here, it's almost bisecting the central pupillary area, and it's not the opacity of the lens, but the fact that the lens is tilted and bisecting. There's partly aphakic, partly phakic, which is causing a drop in the visual acuity. I think this child was just 3 years old when I did this surgery. Obviously, here it's not enough to just support the capsular bag, but you also need to center this. Again, creating the capsular excess is the greatest challenge over here. You can do it, use high molecular weight viscoelastic, keep the anterior capsule flat and go ahead and do this. And in this case, because of the age of the child and it's a very soft cortical matter, usually when you're using a Sionis ring, you have to evacuate the lens material completely. I just use the I8 to do that. This is the area of maximum subluxation. So essentially, I create an incision, a pocket. You can do this even without making a pocket. This is a fairly reasonably old video. And this is a Sionis ring with an eyelid which has come a little anteriorly. And I thread a 9-0 Prolene through that. And then subsequently through the main incision, I introduce this. And you have to make sure that this particular support is directly abetting on the area of maximum subluxation. So as you introduce it, this might rotate, and this might be in an inappropriate place. So, but you have to rotate it all the way around so that this particular support system comes directly opposite to this area where I have created this scleral incision. So you see that I'm rotating it all the way around so as to bring it conjoint with this area. And that's exactly where I need the maximum support. A 9-0 Prolene suture has been already threaded to. You have an option of, and then using a railroading technique. This is just about a millimeter and a half away from the limbus. You essentially take this, and you can see that entire capsular bag being drawn in place. And once you pass it through the sclera, you could make multiple passes, or you can just make a suture over there. Then it seems to be, the whole capsular bag seems to come under control. Here, because of a higher zonulopathy, you see that I'm using a 3-piece lens. I believe that compared to the softer haptics of a single-piece lens, though that's my go-to lens in normal situation, in situations like this, using a 3-piece lens is a good idea. And haptics of a 3-piece lens act as a better support for the compromised capsular bag, and that's with the both with the lens and this is what you see 1 month post-operative. You can see that the whole thing is fibrosed down. This eyelid gently protrudes outside. In an undilated pupil, you are just able to see the rim of this, but in the dilated condition, though it appears slightly decentered, you find that this is a reasonably in the central optical area. There's enough of the optics that's available there. It's not with our current comfort levels with scleral fixated IOLs, glued IOLs, and retro iris fixation. When you have a extreme subluxation, it's not always necessary to go ahead and try to fix a lens inside the bag. Whenever you find the lens almost disappearing once the patient lies down, or it's a subluxation where the lens is just sinking down, that means the zonular support is too extreme. I had it in mind. I had actually preoperatively decided that I'm just going to do a lensectomy for this patient and then go ahead and fix a retro iris fixation. But then on the table, I just decided to go ahead and see whether I can do a capsulorhexis. Sometimes it's just to make your surgical life interesting, you do these things. I did manage to do this, and you can see that I'm also removing all the lens material through this. I think Dr. Abhay at least would insist that you should preserve the capsular bag and go ahead and put the lens inside the bag, and I'm sure he has the surgical dexterity to do it. But I personally felt that though there was some zonular support, I felt that this bag is better if it comes out. And here again you can see it bisecting the pupillary area, and what I do is to go in with a vitrector and remove the entire bag. And this is just to show you another option, especially if you're not very comfortable doing complex surgeries, then you could consider this. But if you're not comfortable doing complex surgeries, I do not think you should take up these cases, because many of these patients are young and they might far outlive your own professional life, and you owe it to them to ensure that they get the best of care. Here you see that you have a fairly clear visual access, and subsequently I make sure just using a Vexel sponge. Of course you can use a triamcinolone to make sure there's no vitreous strands. It's limited anterior vitrectomy that you do, and because it's a 6 millimeter optic lens that I'm going to use, I have to enlarge the incision. Then subsequently I introduce this iris clip lens, and then just rotate it in place. Basically it goes in a vertical orientation. You just need to gently rotate it so that it becomes horizontal. Then you will see the location of my side ports. These are located over here because I know that I have to create a enclavation in this region. So gently holding this lens, I just go behind, and then using a special needle which comes with these lenses, I just tuck a little bit of the iris in. This is a slightly blind procedure. That's one of the reasons that sometimes you get a horizontal ovalization or even small punctures in the iris. But once you get comfortable with this, it's fairly easy to do. And I've completely given up this as a lens for correction of refractive errors in the anterior chamber. But you can see a suture being applied to close this fairly large zoom. This is what you see on the first post-operative day. Slight ovalization of the pupil, but otherwise these are the two eyes of the same patient operated 1 week apart. Last of my videos. Can I just, it's a few seconds. This is just to show you a situation where there's an anterior subluxation. Patient was almost 50 years old. He had lived with a subluxated lens right through his life. We had been following him for many years. But suddenly one day he presented with pressure about 50s in severe pain. There was hardly any space for introduction of any instruments. You could see I introduced the meringotomy knife and went through the equator of the lens, removed the entire lens, and then of course subsequently put the iris fixation lens. Thank you so much for your attention.